the portion of KiTavo. Our biblical portion this week opens with a speech and food, which is something very representative of Jewish life in general. The first fruits are brought to the Holy Temple, and the farmer who brings the first fruits makes a speech before the Kohen and before the temple altar. And that speech is actually a quintessential summary of the history of the Jewish people. Arami Oved Avi, he says, my father was almost destroyed by the Aramean Laban. And he went down to Egypt, and he lived there for a few years. And he became a great and mighty nation. Vayoreu otanu hamitzrim, and the Egyptians acted evilly against us. They afflicted us. They placed upon us rigorous labor. And we cried out to the Lord our God. And he heard our cries and our affliction and our suffering. And God brought us out of Egypt with a strong arm and an outstretched hand, with great awe and signs and miracles. And he brought us to this place, and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And here I bring my first fruits. This speech made by the farmer when he brought the first fruits is the central aspect of every Passover Seder. This speech is explicated. This speech is the primary source for the whole story of Egypt, our slavery in Egypt and our exodus from Egypt. And the question is always asked, what is the importance of this speech? Why is it so primary? And I would imagine that if we're using something to describe the suffering of the Jews in Egypt and their exodus from Egypt, go to the book of Exodus, where it's initially described. Why go to a kind of second-hand source in the book of Deuteronomy? What the farmer said. Use rather God's words in describing the Egyptian experience and the exodus from Egypt. And the reason is very important. The individual who brought the first fruits to the temple and made this speech may have lived thousands of years after the Exodus. Certainly many hundreds of years after the Exodus. And yet, he speaks in the first person. My father was a wandering Aramean. The Egyptians afflicted us. We cried out unto the Lord. God brought us out of Egypt. What this farmer says is what every single Jew must feel. To be a Jew means to feel Jewish history pulsating through the blood in your veins. To be a Jew means to take seminal moments in Jewish history and to look at them not as a national, past historical event, but as a personal, present, existential experience. I was a slave in Egypt. I was brought out of Egypt by God. Therefore, I am so grateful to God. That's what it really means to be a Jew. To represent Jewish history. Excuse me, to see and to feel the great moments of Jewish history. and to have a sense that God was responsible for your redemption. May we all learn to make such speeches and have such feelings. This is truly what it means to be a Jew. Shabbat Shalom.